We got where we can.
Okay, at this time, we're going to call the meeting of the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments to order. Would you please rise and join me in the pledge allegiance to the
Pledge
flag
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we get started, I'm gonna want to welcome the two newest mayors to our meeting. Congratulate them, Mayor Joe DeMauro of Derby and Mayor Paul Penarowski of Waterbury. Welcome aboard, gentlemen. We do have a speaker here today. I'm just gonna ask for the public comment just to get that out of the way. And then we'll move forward with you, Denise, okay? If there's anyone from the public that wants to address the board, please do so at this time. State your name and address for the record.
We did not receive any requests online.
Okay. Denise, you're up.
Thank you so much. Well, I see some familiar faces and some new ones. So thank you for entertaining our presentation this morning. So I'm Denise Merrill, former Secretary of the State. Frankly, glad to be retired, although I'm not really because I'm still here, right? So I came here this morning from beautiful downtown Stores where I live. And I remember I was Secretary of State for 12 years. I was state representative from Mansfield for 17 years, but I was also on a board of education for 4 or 5 years before that. And I think that was my toughest job, quite frankly. So my hat is off to all of you. I'm going to be teaching a course at UConn in the spring on state and local government. And I'm reviewing all the jobs that you people have. And like I say, my hat's off to you. So we won't take too much of your time this morning, but I think we're bringing your attention to a very important effort that's going to be going on for the next probably 3 years until July 4th, 2026. Can any of you guess what that date is?
Declaration of
The
Independence.
250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
Supposed to be
And it is being nationally celebrated through commissions in all the states. Many of the states have already formed commissions. Ours has as well. Of course, we're one of the original 13 colonies. And so an important date for Connecticut. And we're hoping to celebrate it, to commemorate it. And I see it frankly as a time for reflection. That's one of the reasons I took this on. The governor asked me to chair the commission last year, or maybe almost a year and a half now. And I said yes. Now, at that time, I was not retired, I have to confess, so it was easier. But I'm very glad I did because I think it's an important moment in our history to reflect on the meaning of those words that were carved so many years ago. Certain unalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so it's a time we can reflect on the people who fought and died for these rights, but also it's about people whose important contributions may have been omitted from some of our history. So we hope to take a time to think about what it really means to be American. So that's my little soapbox speech about why I took this on, and I'm hoping that you will all take it on as well. So the governor formed the commission, as I say, a couple of years ago. He asked me to chair it, and this is Dr. Jason Mancini, who's executive director of the Connecticut Humanities Council, who's with me here today. And the way this is happening is that the commission is formed through DECD. So we're working with them, and a very big part of this is going to be tourism. And I think the themes that we've taken on, and I'll talk about that in a minute, will revolve around everything that people in the arts and culture community, in your communities all over the state, are going to be focused on this for the next 3 years, which is amazing because we usually don't get that kind of, thematic approach to all the things we're doing. But the museum community, the art and culture community are all united around what we hope will be a real boost for tourism in this state. I know some of you know the state has just come up with a new theme. We were kind of hoping that they'd stick with still revolutionary for the moment, but that didn't happen. But we can still work with it, and I see this as a very local celebration. We hope that every town in this state will do something and think about their own piece of all this. And there's so much history in every one of your communities that I know this is going to be a time where maybe we can look at the buildings, the sites, the people, whatever it is in your community that was happening both at that time, but also going forward. And we are going to focus a lot on education because it is a time where we need to think about where we're going with these ideas and ideals and what's being taught in our schools. And it will be a time we'll be able to do some scholarship and research on some of this, but so I hope you all see this as an opportunity. You see on the slide the executive order that created the commission here. We call it America 250 Connecticut. To be clear, there is a national commission that's also dedicated to this effort. And that is our charge that you see in front of you up there. Assist in any observance of the semi-quincentennial. And that's why we call it 250, by the way, because semi-quincentennial took me a year to be able to say it. So I'm hoping that 250 makes more sense. Encourage civic, historic, educational, economic, arts, and other organizations throughout the state to organize. I have to say, everyone I have asked has said, I want to be involved. This is not going to be an effort where you have to talk people into being involved in it. It's going to be something where everyone wants to be part of it. So I'm going to let some of my colleagues here talk about the actual organization, the themes, and the kinds of things we're doing. We've been joined by Sarah Harris, who is the co-chair of what we're calling our leadership committee. We are raising funds for this effort and seeking leadership from all sectors. Sarah is the vice chair of the Mohegan Tribal Council, and we very much welcome their participation in this effort. The other co-chair is Jonathan Harris. Some of you may remember from his many roles in state government. He's now working with Eversource, who we hope will also be a chief co-sponsor of some of this. And of course, the legislature is already has a group working on getting us some resources from the legislature, which we very much hope we will pass down to the towns through grants through the Humanities Council. So that's the broad outlines of what we're up to. Like I say, I very much hope that every one of you will participate. And I will mention, you should have received a letter from us earlier this year asking you to send us at least one representative from your town that we can work with. Some towns are way ahead of us, frankly. Litchfield, for example, already has a commission in the town. So does Weathersfield, I believe, and I don't know, several others that we'll talk about in a minute. But that's the broad strokes. And I also want to introduce Cindy Tolosa, who's also with the Humanities Council. She is administering this program at the moment and doing a wonderful job of doing things like these lovely slides you see before you. So thank you very much for having us. I'm going to turn this over now, I guess, to Jason, or Cindy, who's going to take us through some of these presentations. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you all about this commemoration that we've been thinking about for a long time. In fact, our first meeting about this was in March of 2020. And I think you all know what happened that month when everything shut down and reconfigured the world. So we're coming out really energized with this initiative on America 250 and what we can do for the state of Connecticut. And I don't want to put Sarah on the spot around inclusive conversation. We sort of had a little lineup here, but I do want to just signal that our aim is really to ensure that everybody in the state sees himself in this commemoration. So this isn't about just a deep look back 250 years, but where we are now, where we want to be for the next 250 years. We've laid the groundwork. The commission is represented by a diverse group of cultural leaders across the state. And I think it sets the tone for the kind of engagement that we want to see across our communities. I will get into a little bit more about Connecticut Humanities' role further down the deck. We'll invite one of the next or Sarah should.
Good morning, everyone. I apologize for being just a couple minutes late. I had to get my kiddos on the bus this morning before I made the truck over here from Mohegan. But thanks so much for giving us the time this morning. I'm honored, and Mohegan is really excited about being involved in the 250th anniversary of the US. We think it presents a lot of opportunities for us to tell some of our stories, some that sometimes don't make it into the larger narrative, and it's a really great opportunity to do that. So I can talk a little bit more about that later on, but the vision of the 250th committee, we think to have a successful 250th in Connecticut will be defined by its reach and impact, specifically the number of opportunities created for civic engagement and the degree to which those opportunities make all residents of Connecticut feel represented and included. Connecticut will serve as a model for revolutionary civic participation that inspires others with our people's passions, histories, and capacity to create positive and sustainable change together. The legacy of the 250th will be greater access to sites across the state and a deeper sense of belonging.
Thanks, Sarah.
And so the commission has been working hard on establishing guiding values, which are inherent to all of the activities that will be taking place in 2026 and leading up to 2026. So we understand that some events will be entirely celebratory, some will be analytical, some will really be a commemoration of what happened. And people with a variety of backgrounds and beliefs will be participating in them, but we're asking that, so on the website, there are more guiding values that have been outlined, and we're asking all events that are promoted by the commission to align with those, namely respect for other people and their opinions, and considering the effects of what we're saying and doing in commemorating the 250th.
So back to Connecticut Humanities' role. Many of you may know that back in 2021, in the throes of the pandemic, Connecticut Humanities had got involved in creating the Connecticut Cultural Fund with an investment from the state legislature of almost $31 million. And with that funding, we had awarded over 700 arts and humanities organizations across the state in almost every one of Connecticut's communities funding to create both operating support, to create a digital infrastructure, but also to better connect our cultural organizations with our K-12 students and educators. And in that spirit, we have continued this engagement with the state government in thinking about all of our communities and how everybody in these cultural organizations can best represent your communities and how your communities engage the commemoration of the 250th. So a little bit of background. Connecticut Humanities is a nonpartisan affiliate of the National Endowment for the Humanities. We've been around for almost 50 years in Connecticut and been deeply engaged in funding, shaping, thinking, and convening cultural organizations across our communities. And our goal here is to really facilitate these kinds of conversations in our communities, and so that we can connect across our communities to better engage our kids and our communities through education, programs, new exhibits and content to really uplift the best of who we are, and importantly, to really promote that to the outside as well. We all live in Connecticut. I think we all believe that it's an exceptional place to live, work, and experience. And we want that for our communities. We want that from people who are going to visit us. So we have a lot of stories to share. This is an opportunity to tell great stories, both from the past, but also to acknowledge our communities today, and again, where we want to be moving forward.
So the commission developed 4 themes that will lead the commemoration in the state. So there's tell inclusive stories, power of place for the common good and doing history. And so these 4 themes are really ways to guide activities and kind of make the commemoration more thematic, leading it forward, and taking it beyond 1776. So really thinking about the last 250 years in the nation and the 250 that will hopefully come after now. And so I don't know if you guys want to talk about any of the specific themes.
Well, only to say that our particular commission is focused on Connecticut. You know, there will be a lot of national activity, but our job is really to talk about Connecticut's role in the revolution. And of course, it was a very large role. And ever since we started bringing this up, everyone I talk to has a story about their town, whether it's about Danbury being burned down, you know, we were the munitions state. So there's a lot that's going to come out and a lot of stories that are already out there that just need to be put together. But I just want to make that clear. Our job is to talk about Connecticut, its role in the larger national story. So.
And I can speak a little to, you know, telling inclusive stories on the power of place. You know, I mean, Mohegan has been in the state of Connecticut since before Connecticut existed, even as a colony. And oftentimes, you know, there's not, even in schools, you know, the Connecticut has made a push in the last several years, which is wonderful, to really have more inclusive curriculum, including, you know, stories, our histories of the federally recognized and the state recognized tribes in the state. And I mean, Mohegans fought in the Revolutionary War. You know, a Mohegan citizen was among the first citizens to die, in fact, in the Revolutionary War. So the story of Connecticut and the story of the United States is very much our story as well. And looking around the room, you know, there are other stories that frequently just don't get told. And in order for us to truly understand where we should be going in Connecticut and in this country, I think it's important, and Mohegan thinks it's important, that we understand where we've been. And that's true for all communities, I think, of color. So we're really excited to be part of this and to use the opportunity to really leverage the opportunity to tell these stories so that we all have a more full and complete understanding of our state and of the United States.
I'll just add, in part, you know, we're here to ask for your support and your help to connect us to your cultural organizations. We really need their participation in order to do this history, in order to make this work, in order to connect our state and our communities. We need your leadership and your connections to bring us all together across our communities in the way that you're doing here for this region. We want to do that across the state and really tell Connecticut stories as effectively as we can. But as we develop a funding scenario, we want to be able to support the cultural organizations in your communities that contribute to public art, public humanities, civics education, and the engagement of our kids and families. Just very quickly, you know, we put together a not insignificant budget for this. This is roughly $13 million that you're seeing broken apart on the screen. We're looking to the state and in part to private organizations to invest nearly $30 million in total. This is 13. There's going to be a big marketing and tourism push. That's another 17 million that we're not showing you. This is the work that we'll be focused on, administering the commission, creating those educational, programmatic exhibitions, and so on, that's connecting with our new state social studies frameworks. We're looking to invest through cultural grants and then again, promoting the actual events across 2026. So it's an investment. This is a 3 to 5 year bite, if you will. So we're looking at an average of probably $5 to $6 million a year that we're going to be investing across Connecticut. Cindy, maybe touch on some of the events we're talking about.
Yeah, so we have, we are planning that in the summer of 2026, there will be a large array of signature events throughout the state. July 4th, 2026, we will have a large scale celebration in Hartford. As the second historic capital of Connecticut, New Haven will also have a large event that summer. But we're also looking at partnerships with the Connecticut Restaurant Association, the Lodging Association, the Main Street Center, the Freedom Trail, to really think about how the 250th can touch every community and connect the state through some different tourism initiatives. And the commission will be promoting all of the events that I'm sure all of your towns and cities will be having as well. So as we get closer to 2026, we'll be asking for all of those events so that we can get the word out about them. We can go to the next slide. So we do have a mailing list. We are on Facebook and Instagram. We have a YouTube page where we're sharing all of our meetings as we move forward. But ct250.org is the website, and you'll find everything in this presentation and a lot more information about the commission's work, what we've been doing, and what our hopes are for 2026.
As you constitute or think about constituting your local commissions or leadership groups for the 250th, we encourage you to think about a broad representation from your communities, but also a point of contact for us to be in touch with as we build content and really begin to implement the work of the commission.
So on that note, it'd probably be helpful if you send some type of communication to all the CEOs here about and giving us some guidance on or a structure of what you think we should be doing or would like us to be doing. I think that would be helpful for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. We sent one request already, but it was pretty broad. It just said, give me a contact person. And many have responded. If you haven't already, we'll send something else out that's a little more structured about giving you some ideas about how to do that and who to send and so forth. In many of your towns, it'll be some local historical organization that you'll first talk to. I would encourage you to kind of go beyond that a little bit, because sometimes those groups, I know in my own town, there's a group of people who forever have been on the Historic Society Commission, and they're wonderful. But there's a lot of other folks out there who probably would like to be involved in this. So just think about that, especially from the education side of things. There will be a major kickoff educational conference at Central Connecticut State in March. And we'll send more information about that. But, you know, that's going to be a big part of what we're doing is educational. So for the kids.
Ed, you had a question?
It's actually more of a comment. Ed St. John, Middlebury. Denise, nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see you.
This is a very constructive comment. I think one of the issues that you're kind of preaching to the choir over here between you and I. We got to get the Commissioner of Education involved in this and start making this. You got a couple years out here to do some kind of presentation within our educational system to explain what a role Connecticut played in the history of this nation. You realize that all the troublemakers that in this country all came from Connecticut. I mean, but that's what they were referred to. By the crown, they were referred to as what revolutionaries, and get rid of them. They're nothing but trouble. But
Most of them were from Middlebury.
yeah, they weren't signers. But two of the big troublemakers were. I got some leftovers, but that's okay. It's all good. But the big thing is, I deal with our youth programs extensively. And what I'm seeing, they'll come in for their various little citizenship awards and like kind of things. So they can't wait to ask our first selectman all these very complex questions. They get a little bit off base when Ed responds to a question with a question. And when you ask them about the history of the community, the country, and the state, it's almost a mental blank. Almost a mental blank. And so there's something lacking here, and without the Commissioner of Education, we bringing this next generation on, Denise, and we don't bring these young people and begin to educate them how important history is and the contributions that not only Connecticut made, all of the other 12 other colonies also made to the formation of this country. That's where we have to start. And if we can engage the young people, you will engage the parents at the same time.
Absolutely.
So
You
Denise,
are-
I just leave that as very constructive, that you've got a couple years out here. You're preaching to the choir. Middlebury will do as always participated. We'll be right there. We'll get everybody organized. We'll do our thing. We got to bring our younger people into this whole process.
Absolutely. And, you know, for the 30 years of my career before that, I didn't know many of you. I was quite young at the time. That was my career, was civic education. I ran a little project called the Consortium for Law and Citizenship Education. And for years, I ran student programs, doing debate, young people's debates, the mock trial program, all these programs. But I'll tell you, civic education and history have been removed pretty much from the curriculum.
I
It's
would
terrible.
suggest not only the letter that comes to the CEOs, you send a letter to our superintendent of schools. You have total access to that and use some of that money maybe to bring people around to set up some areas. It would be very educational. I think our young people would enjoy it. And it's not being extracted from a textbook. It's real people explaining the real history of our state. And I think it'd be very well attended. And if we can get some, you can get some input from our young people, I think this is the key to this. And you certainly have, hopefully you have time. I know there's 169 communities. Everyone's very diverse and different, but I think if you go through the superintendent of schools along with us, I think this could be very helpful.
Okay, with that said, I think we're ready to move on because we have a busy agenda and we have some people that have other appointments. So thank you very much, and we'll be talking to you in the future.
Thank you.
all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for your
Thank
time.
you. Okay, so at this time,
Well, Rick, so, no, we already did.
Yeah, I missed it. Okay.
Just a quick bit of housekeeping. In addition to Waterbury and Durham, there are a few other towns that don't have designated alternates, representatives to this board. So Trish Bruder will be reaching out to any of you who have vacancies right now. With that, from the city of Ansonia, I believe we have Mayor Cassetti online.
thank you.
Present, sir.
From the town of Beacon Falls, online, we have First Selectman Smith.
Yes.
I know he's. There we go.
Present.
From the town of Cheshire, Andrew Martelli. Is that one?
Yeah, just give me the.
I am here.
Bethlehem's on.
Oh, sorry about that. Is it Steve?
Yes,
Sorry?
it is. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. First Selectman, appreciate it. And I did Cheshire, Andrew responded, correct? From the city of Derby, Mayor DiMartino is in the room.
Here.
From the town of Middlebury, First Selectman St. John.
Here.
From the borough of Naugatuck, Mayor Hess has an excused absence. From the town of Oxford, First Selectman Temple. Here. Town of Plymouth online, no. From the town of Prospect, Mayor Chatfield has an excused absence today. From the town of Seymour online, we have First Selectwoman Dragonis.
Here.
Thank you. City of Shelton, Mayor Loretti.
Here.
I don't believe we're joined by the town of Southbury today. Okay. From the town of Thomaston, First Selectman Moan.
Present.
From the city of Waterbury, Mayor.
Welcome, Mayor.
Thank you.
I'm never gonna say it.
I learned, it took me a few years.
Mayor, I just want you to know, I've practiced before I came
And
here.
then at my inauguration, the Archbishop lectured me on the right way to say it, because I don't say it correctly, so.
Thank you. From the town of Watertown, town manager Mark Ramo, I believe, is online.
Here.
Town of Wolcott, Mayor Dunn.
Here.
And I think that is it. Did I miss anyone on the board?
I was in the men's room. Cheshire's here.
Yes, Andrew, yeah,
I know, Mrs. Perkinson, I guess dropped by.
Okay, so we're also joined by Jane Dunbar, who's our field coordinator from Condot. She's online. As well as, Mark Nielsen, our deputy director, is online today. With that, Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum both of the NVCOG board as well as the, Central Norfolk Valley MPO.
Okay, so this takes us to item number 4, the MPO meeting. We have, the first item is the tip amendments. Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. So before I get to the project, I want to quickly go over the new form that is attached to your packet. As discussed at previous meetings, they've recently signed a contract with Eco Interactive, which will be helping manage our transportation improvement program software. So this is the first page that is listed. This reflects all the information in the state transportation improvement program, and which is a combination of all the tips in the state. I also remind you that this MPO programs all of the dollars, and we approve the money that will be used. The state cannot use any of the funds until this board approves it. So the next page is the full financial breakdown for the project. So this is showing all the funding sources broken up by the federal dollars and the state dollars, and it's organized by funding type. And then the last page, there's a location map for where the project is located, and this is really where the summary information is relevant for the board. It gives a detailed updates to the project. The funding changes are all listed here. This includes timeline changes as well. So we can provide this PDF to your municipality if you're interested in posting it on your social media, and also we would like for you to share our public link for Eco Interactive, where they can view not just this project, but all the projects. So to get back to the actual tip amendment, this amendment is for as part of the Unix action item projects. Exit 21 will be permanently closed. Exit 22 will be getting extended auxiliary and getting 2 lanes for the off ramp. And there will also be local street improvements from I-84 heading to the train station, which will be West Liberty Street, Bank Street, and Meadow Street. So the recommendation on the screen is to move and adopt this resolution. And I'll take any questions.
Move adoption of CNVMPO Resolution 204-01, approving tip amendments listed above as so listed and described by Rich.
2403.
Three, right?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the
Okay,
correction.
so there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, takes us to item number 5 now, the minutes for approval. So we have the 10-20-23, CNVMPO and the Naugatuck Valley COG meetings, attachment number 3. So. Second. Motion is made second. Any discussion? None was the motion.
Thank you.
Got it. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Item number 5.2 is 11-17, 2023. That's the NVCOG minutes of the meeting, attachment number 4.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Presented.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Moving along, we go item number 6, financial report. October 2023 financial report, attachment number 5. Mike?
Thank you. So this is the financial report for the period ending October 31st, 2023. It did go out in the agenda packets last Friday afternoon, or subsequent to the agenda packet. So we're 4 months or 33% through the fiscal year. Current net position is about $196,000. There have been no unexpected funding cuts. We have received a DECD grant during the fiscal year that wasn't planned. And we might also get, 1 or 2 small grants or contracts throughout the year for projects. Nothing significant, but not originally planned for. We did receive 100% of our RSG funds in October, which usually we get a quarter at a time. Other than that, the net position is high because of the collection of municipal dues and brownfield dues until July, but the net position should diminish towards the year end.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Motion to accept financial report is presented.
Second. Motion is made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. You have an audit update?
Yeah, so it's brief. So we are finishing up the audit. It's currently in like the review stage of the draft report. We're expecting to get the draft report next week. Give it our internal review, verify everything, and we will be setting up a audit committee meeting in January to go over and review the report.
Just to remind everyone, the audit committee is, the executive board sits as the audit committee, each year. We had difficulty scheduling a quorum for, both executive and audit. So in January, after everything's settled, we'll schedule a new meeting.
Yes,
Okay, you all set, Mike?
all set. Thank you.
All right, moving along, item number 7, the director's report, Rick.
Yes, sir. So just an update on the lease renewal, which I have to give notice by 2024, August of 20, I'm sorry, July 24. And it'll expire, the end of that period. As I've said to the board previously, we're not happy with the current situation here. We've started to look around and gauge the market. And the executive board will take up the issue with us going forward, and then we'll report back when we have time. But the issues with the landlord continue. The reason I actually placed this on here today is to let you know that we're going to invoke some of the clauses under our lease to reduce payments based upon lack of service provided. We went through a mess 2 weeks ago. They stopped picking up the trash. It was literally all over the streets. There's a full dumpster out in the middle of the street out here. The landlord thinks it's not their dumpster, but it's sitting out in the middle of Printer's Court right now. So we've had all kinds of issues, but I've spoken with our general counsel, and he thinks we should start to invoke some of the rent reduction clauses or rent withhold clauses.
It's usually the way you get people's attention.
Yeah. So we'll be moving forward with that. Is there any questions on that? Otherwise,
I guess my only question is, Rick, is as we move forward with some of these things, how will it impact the lease and our legal standing? Will it put us in jeopardy for late payments or anything as such after discussing with legal counsel?
there are some liquidated damages should we terminate without cause. But I don't anticipate the timing being such that would be the case. It's gonna take a while to find and plan and do anything else. The problem really is for us in the meantime. We're really cramped in here. Our first preference was going to be to just go downstairs and rent some additional space, but it just doesn't make sense.
We understand.
But, so we have staff, you know, you guys have been in the back, we have dividers everywhere, people in the hallways. And it's gonna get even more cramped before we are able to move, but, I don't think we're gonna have to break it early.
Pardon me, say that again?
I don't think we're gonna have to terminate the lease early at this.
Okay. So you think it's gonna take the full term of the lease in order to us to get to where we need to be to make a move?
Probably. It's
The term of the lease.
to be determined, but
The term of the lease is until when?
it expires in the beginning of 25.
Pardon me?
It expires the beginning of 25.
Okay, okay.
So about a year.
All right, thank you.
Legislative priorities, this is really just to remind you all, if you have any specific legislative priorities, short session, we don't expect any big bills. But anything that you're supporting, anything that you are moving, you wanna let us know about, that we can support as a region. Drew will again be working on coordinating the legislative agenda along with Jack and myself. But we don't expect a lot. There'll be a few things. There's some CCM stuff affecting regions that and the ability to consolidate services that may move forward this year. So we'll see how those go. Federal budget, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just keep moving. On the federal budget, this is just really just to let you know. So if under the Federal Appropriations Act, I don't have the exact name, 2023, which is a new process that was put in place by the current Congress. If the Congress does not adopt regular appropriations by, I believe it's March, then they trigger automatic across the board reductions of 1% for the year. But we will already be more than well into the year. So it'll be about a 5% reduction, through the balance of the year from, maybe to our federal, transportation aid. We don't think it'll affect any of our other problems because they're grant programs. But the programmatic stuff could be impacted. So we're preparing, Michael and I have been talking about it. We've made provision for any reduction if need be, if it comes to that this year. I'm not really worried about this year. I just want to let you all know where we are. Number 4, this actually is an action item. This is, I'm taking advantage of the board being together today because this has been so long in the making. So our revolving loan fund committee for brownfields, which it functions under the EPA revolving loan fund grant program that we operate. We've had difficulty getting the underwriting provisions completed for loan agreements to private companies, private individuals. We've negotiated an agreement with Ion Bank to do the underwriting for us for pretty inexpensive set fee. The banking commission approved it and Ion Bank has signed it. So I'm asking today for a motion to adopt the resolution, which empowers me to sign it and puts the agreement in force.
So, second. Motion is made second. Any questions, any discussion?
So Rick, just briefly, you indicated that there'll be some financial implications to this. It'll be more expensive, is that what you're indicating, than our current arrangement? What?
No, it's a good deal. It's a good deal.
It's a better deal than we
Yes,
currently have,
yes.
and we'll get better service.
Yes, when the predecessor to Liberty Bank was doing it, it was very inexpensive, it was very good for us.
Mhm.
Liberty declined to continue the arrangement once they took over Knockton Valley. And, we had used a nonprofit, as you may recall, the last one that we did was very difficult and very expensive, and they wanted a piece of the deal. They wanted us to give them 2% of the deal as a fee on top of it. And no, not what we do. So, Ion has stepped up, done a great job for us as a community bank. Really went the extra yard for us on this. So we'll pay a flat fee for the underwriting, but same process we had before. They'll come in, they'll make the report, they'll take all the documents with them.
Very good, thank you.
And just
Thank you.
another quick question to the chair. Any delays in current underwriting? Is this already happening?
So the one you're asking about has not been delayed by this.
Okay.
But we do have 2 others that have been delayed for quite a while. So we'll be handing off, I think it's 4, but I'll defer to these guys.
Yeah, that's correct. There is four of them now, and basically right after execution of this document, I'll be in contact with Ion Bank to get the ball moving and get them all squared away and started.
Good, thank you.
So not anything that we haven't done before, just a requirement of this agreement. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Rick, you gonna keep going?
I'm gonna keep going. Opioid task force, this is just on the agenda. We didn't know if Merrill Leary was going to continue to serve as the state chair. I hadn't heard from him on this, so we can just skim over this. If anyone wants to.
I don't know if he's gonna continue as state chair, but he's gonna continue out the rest of his term. I just talked to him last night.
Yes,
okay, he's staying on the-
So, status the chair.
Next term is for how long, 12 years?
The end of 2024, I believe.
That's good news.
Cool, great. Thank you, Mayor. And then just, an update to everyone else, in addition to the proxies, for these meetings, Trish is trying to update the municipal contacts, so if people people in your offices have been getting requests for updates. We have, a number of them that need to be completed. I won't go through the list, just please talk to your assistants, and urge them to respond with updated contact information. And that is it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, moving along, item number 8, environmental planning, Aaron.
No, it's actually.
Okay, Ricardo, brownfield update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So attached in your agenda packet, you will find the current project status of all of our funded brownfield projects. One site I wanted to highlight is 0113 Canal Street, Shelton, where remedial activities have started under this reporting period. So they're reviewing soil data and they're going to start looking at lining up the remediation action report with redevelopment outcomes. At the moment, the site is proposed for 60+ residential units with commercial space on the bottom. So we started that, and I will keep you updated as we move forward in that progress. I also wanted to let everyone know that NVCOG has a pending assessment application at EPA. We hope to hear back from EPA's late spring 2024, and this was for, like I said, assessment and somewhere around $500,000. So fingers crossed we get awarded. So if we do, I'll let you guys know, and then we'll open up the solicitation process to start receiving applications for assessment projects. And then finally, also wanted to let everyone know that EPA intends to open up a supplemental RLF solicitation late winter, early spring. So if you guys have any projects that need cleanup funding, please let us know. We'll start the whole process of reviewing the site and making sure that they're eligible to receive federal funding. The goal is to include some of these sites in the application, so then we could submit and hopefully get awarded for that funding. That's all I have right now, Mr. Chair. If you have any questions, I'll be around. Thanks.
Okay. Moving along, we have MSW Recycling. Christine?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a reminder to our returning officials and a welcome to our new officials, my name is Christine. I'm an environmental planner working on the Sustainable Materials Management Grants, or SMM, with 4 towns in our region. The goal of these pilot programs is to divert food scraps and use principles of pay as you throw to reduce waste and save taxpayer dollars. So we're pleased to be able to share data from Middlebury for the first time, as you can see on our monthly chart here. I'd like to congratulate First Selectman Ed St. John on truly outstanding data. The clean food capture rate is 34%. That means 1 out of every 3 pounds of food waste in the pilot area that is being generated is being captured, even with a totally voluntary program. So DEEP and their consultants have mentioned to me several times how impressive this is. A quick note that Ansonia and Seymour have concluded their program, so their stats will remain here but won't change month to month. Woodbury is also slated to conclude in a few months. They've already appointed a waste advisory committee to recommend a plan for permanence. On the next slide, so DEEP has actually been able to draw a few large scale conclusions from the pilot data so far. I know there's sort of a lot going on here. The first bar on that graph demonstrates the current tonnage of waste and recycling generated in the state. And that black vertical bar demonstrates our capacity of what we can process in state. So the second bar is showing what would happen if the numbers we're seeing in the pilot programs right now were applied to every town within the state. In other words, our capacity shortfall would be cut in half if those pilot numbers were applied around the state. But as you know, the pilots are voluntary. So the third bar down there shows what happens if we moved from these pilot programs to mandatory unit-based pricing, and the fourth one, mandatory unit-based pricing and organics. So as you can see, it's a simple trend of reducing the amount of waste, increasing recycling, and diverting food waste. And ultimately that would put us well below our in-state capacity. I really want to thank Ansonia, Seymour, Middlebury, and Woodbury for participating in these pilots in order to help DEEP be able to draw these conclusions. Finally, one last quick note on our wonderful trash talk here. We have our Regional Waste Authority grant. We do have a verbal update that will be funded in full from DEEP, but unfortunately we don't have anything in writing and we don't have a sense of a timeline yet. So we'll keep you posted on those, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Anybody? All right, Christine, keep going.
All right, well, this one's going to be really quick. Just another friendly reminder to fill out this survey about the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. What are your town's priorities? We want to make sure that your desired emissions reductions measures are captured in our priority plan, which makes you eligible to apply for the literal billions of dollars of funds that are available through the EPA. So if you could just scan that QR code, I know about half of you have already done that, so thank you so much for that. Or you can reply to the emails sent November 3rd and December 7th to fill out the survey, make sure we put it in there and you guys are eligible for the funds. And that's it for me. Any questions?
Okay, so where do we, is that in our packet that
It was in the packet last month and I sent the emails, but I can resend it if you like.
send it right to the individual municipalities?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, Kenny Town Dan. Aaron,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick Kittytown Dam update. The Connecticut Brownfield Land Bank is moving ahead with due diligence necessary for them to acquire the property. As part of that due diligence, NVCOG has issued an RFP for a property survey of the properties in Ansonia and Seymour that are associated with the project. It's about 215 acres total. And we expect that survey will be completed this winter. EPA is going to be conducting a phase 2 environmental site assessment under its targeted brownfield assessment program. Right now, they're trying to find a contractor that's able to conduct the necessary sediment sampling in both of the impoundments associated with the project. We did go out on a site walk a few weeks ago, one capable contractor. So we're expecting that phase 2 work is going to take place over this winter or in the early spring. It's looking like everything should be in place for the land bank to be able to close on the property this spring. By which time Save the Sound, our partner on this, should have procured an engineer and be ready to begin the design of the dam removal. On a separate associated matter, NVCOG is going to be beginning negotiations with a separate engineering consultant who will be designing the relocation of town of Seymour owned sewer siphons that cross the river and need to be dealt with before the dam is removed. We toured the system with WPCA staff and the selected engineer a few weeks ago, so we should have everything we need to finalize a deal with them. One other update, we have published a news story map that includes a lot more information about the project itself, a lot of background information. The easiest way to find it is to go to our NVCOG Kittytown page, which you can find by searching on any browser for Kittytown Dam. It's a very complex project, and I think the story map does a really good job of really laying it all out and explaining, and allows you to go in as much depth as you want into the issues involved. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
anybody have anything?
I'm just add, Mr. Chair, for the board, just a reminder, so the Brownfields Land Bank will take title, hold liability, NVCOG will continue, at the moment, will continue to act as fiduciary, and be the recipient of grant funds. Our staff is running the project, anyway, but we're running it for the Connecticut Brownfields Land Bank, as is our regular arrangement with them under the MOU. So, just to be clear about where the liability lies, but where the money will fall.
Okay, moving along, item number 9 is transportation planning. We have lots of, Karen.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You will probably remember a while back, NVCOG worked with a consulting firm to perform a corridor study on West Main Street for the city of Waterbury. And that covered the area between Route 8 and the Green. And the corridor study focused on traffic flow, traffic safety, pedestrian and bicycle flow and safety. The city of Waterbury, with the assistance of NVCOG, took the recommendations from that corridor study and applied for a raise grant, and they were awarded a multi-million-dollar raise grant to do the design and construction of the West Main Street improvements. And so that is underway by the city of Waterbury. And the city, that even though it's a multi-million-dollar grant, covering a lot, and there wasn't enough to cover 2 of the major signal replacements along the corridor that need to be done in conjunction with the West Main Street improvements. So the city has asked for LOTSIP to construct those traffic signals. One's on Thomaston Avenue and the other, the Willow Meadow Street intersection with West Main Street. And the estimated cost for the construction of those 2 signals is $1,560,000. Again, that would be out of LOTSIP. I do want to note that the city kind of came to us with this fairly recently. And because T-TAC's not meeting until February, we did not, run this through T-TAC, but because the design and the construction have to be happening concurrently between, the signals and the West Main Street work, which is gonna be kind of a major, geometry change and a lot of things happening to the corridor. We wanted to put this in front of the board. Now, we will update T-TAC in February, that this is how we went about it. And the staff recommends the adoption of resolution 2024-08 to accept the proposed project into the LOTSIP program.
So moved. Motion is made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
My only question is, do I need to recuse myself since it's coming? I don't know how you do that.
No,
Okay.
no,
All
it's fine.
right, fine, thank you.
Through the chair, I do have one question too. Are we gonna be setting a precedence here? Have we done something like this before? I assume, it's kind of the same project really, right?
Yeah, it's, you mean combining it?
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
just, or skipping T-TAC?
Skipping T-TAC.
So just for the new members, T-TAC is the Transportation Technical Advisory Committee. It's either your town, it's made up of town engineers, town public works officials, so. Normally they'll review and make a recommendation before it comes here.
Right.
There was a long period where we didn't do those T-TAC
Okay.
reviews, at the beginning of the LOTSIP program. We really just implemented that for the last 2 years. Is that about right, Karen? 3 years?
Might be longer.
It might have been longer, but there are some occasions where we come to you guys before we go through T-TAC, we try to be a little, flexible on that if the need arises, we don't make a habit out of it for sure, but,
You answered my question.
okay.
Have you distributed the information to the members of T-TAC?
No.
That would be a good idea.
I'd recommend you get it circulated to the T-TAC members anyway, and just let them know that the board has adopted
Okay.
it. This board can change anything that's on the schedule.
Right.
So to that end, too, they are an advisory committee, the board ultimately makes the decisions.
Correct. Right. I just,
Okay, so we have
we should do
two
that.
separate resolutions, correct?
I'm not an engineer.
08 and 09. 09 is coming up next. The resolutions? Yeah.
Karen, is there?
No.
There is no 09.
There's no.
No, I think the confusion is that the resolution is 2408, but it is attachment 9 in the packet.
Okay.
The memo for this project is attached.
Sorry, well, yeah, it got a little confusing. Okay, so, there's a motion and a second. I think we had some discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, financial plan update, Rich?
Yeah.
I'm right behind you, Paul.
So we just wanted to give a very brief funding update. It's been a little while since we did that for this board, and so
Merry
give everyone
Christmas,
just a moment
Mayor.
here to.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, so as we've been saying kind of all along, we've done a very strong job here in our region of programming the funds allocated to us by the state. You'll see here where the orange line being the actual obligations compared to the revenue as the green line. We are approaching the point where the program here in our region will be fully obligated. We will likely be the first region to do so. Although for the first time in a while, there are other regions aggressively programming their funding. You'll see that somewhere around the summer of 2025, we do have an over obligated scenario, which is what we've been aiming for a long time. We look to maintain that. This both shows the importance of this program and gives the department the opportunity to approach the legislature with a request for additional funding for the program. Plus, we know that schedules change on projects all the time. And so we're not currently concerned about that over programming. We don't see it leading to delays in projects, at least not significant delays for the foreseeable future. So as always, we do currently, and we will continue to maintain an open solicitation for projects from towns and encourage all towns to bring projects forward as soon as they're developed. We have begun working with T-TAC, however, on what a prioritization policy might look like if we do approach a scenario where projects do have to be delayed. So we'll continue to work with T-TAC on that. We will bring that before this board once we have something developed. But like I said, we're not concerned that is going to be an immediate impact to any existing projects.
Okay, any questions? All right, keep going. You have ADA.
Yes, so if you'll remember, over the summer, the Department of Transportation did a survey of all towns in Connecticut regarding their ADA transition plan and associated work. All 169 towns across the state did respond, which is fantastic news. The department was able to learn quite a bit from those surveys, including that the most common scenario is that there's not an active transition plan or work being done toward it within the towns. And that towns need resources, both financial and technical, to help achieve that. As a result, the department has put together a program whereby they are going to hire, using state and federal dollars, a consultant to develop ADA transition plans for towns on behalf of the towns. As they finalize what the details in that program are going to look like, we as the NVCOG will be the first region in the state to pilot that process. So we'll help work out any kinks with it. We'll get the first set of transition plans. Right now, the DOT is still negotiating with the Federal Highway Administration as to what can be included in those plans. We know for sure it will be anything within the public right of way, sidewalks, ramps, anything that presents an ADA obstacle within the public right of way. Public buildings also do need to be included in these plans, and that is what the department is hoping to get included. This process we expect we'll get more information about in early to late spring and begin over the summer. It is voluntary for all of your towns. And so you are welcome to develop a plan independently of this. However, given that the department will be paying for it, we strongly encourage everybody to take advantage of the department's consultant. We'll keep everybody updated as we move forward. But as a reminder, ADA transition plans are required by law. Every town must maintain one. Within our region, so every town over 50 employees must maintain one. Within our region, that does include all 19 towns. And so, we'll be in touch with more information about it as soon as we hear from the department, but we are looking forward to getting this underway with their consultant.
Okay.
No action today, but I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
All right, item number 3, Seymour Route 67 project update, Karen.
Yes, me again. We have been working on a project for a number of years on behalf of the town of Seymour. It's Route 67 or Bank Street. And the project limits are from, you can see Route 8 and the Naugatuck River, and then to the west, all the way to Sardis Village Plaza. This project kind of started back in 2016, my Long McBroom completed a preliminary engineering report to assess the traffic conditions and safety along Route 67 in Seymour. And then in 2018, NVCOG hired my Long McBroom again, now SLR, to design a spot improvements project to address the recommendations that were identified in the engineering report. So it's been under design since 2018. And some of the reasons it took so long have to do with right-of-way acquisitions and historic properties that were, along the corridor. But I'm happy to report that it's finally going to construction. The project was bid November 1st. And Barrera Construction is the low bidder. The project amount is roughly 5.8 million. And the work will begin construction in the spring. It'll take about one construction season, hopefully. And I just wanted to give you some of the highlights of some of the work that's going to be done. So this, again, like Route 8 and the river would be off the screen to the right. And this is the pretty big intersection with Franklin Street and River, I don't know if it's River Road or River Street. But anyway, it's kind of a bottleneck there now because as you can see, you can come through the intersection with two vehicles, but then it necks down to one lane. And then goes up to that, off to the left is where Walgreens is. So traffic typically, when it's busy, backs up here. And if you show the next screen, there are going to be 2 lanes now. So there's going to be some widening to the north there. There's going to be a couple retaining walls. And we'll have 2 through lanes all the way up to the Walgreens Plaza. So that'll be a major improvement. Next screen, please. This is again, that very large, Franklin Street and River Road intersection. You can see it's just kind of a massive pavement right now. This is actually looking towards the Naugatuck River. Next screen, Rich. You can kind of see where, we're gonna be pulling some of the curbing in to reduce some of the pavement area. On the top, you can see where those two trees are. That sort of that sidewalk area is what used to be pavement. That's gonna be a larger sidewalk now. And on the lower side, you can kind of see the radius that goes through that little park area that used to be the curbing. Now the curbing's being pushed up, so we're tightening it up. It'll be better for pedestrians, better to kind of slow down the traffic a little bit. Let's see, what else? Next screen, please. This is the intersection with Church and Beach. I'm sorry, I'm bad with names. I think it's Beecher. And you can kind of see right now where it intersects with Route 67. It's a little bit of a free-for-all, not really, very well how the traffic is directed. And in the next screen, this shows you what's going to be done. There's going to be a flush island installed, and traffic will be better directed. So again, making it a safer location for pedestrians and vehicles. Next screen. This is the intersection with, one of the intersections with Claritas Plaza. This has been a problematic intersection for quite a long time. And again, with the next slide, we're tightening things up again so that the traffic flow will be better directed in and out of that plaza. Next screen. This is the intersection with Old Drive East. Again, a lot of pavement here. People coming, I guess, heading west on Route 67 can take this very quickly, this turn. So you'll see in the next slide, we're pulling that in a little bit, narrowing it down. We're going to be prohibiting the left turns coming from the Claritas Plaza direction onto Old Drive, because it's really not necessary. Anybody making a left can do it at the other intersection with Old Drive. So again, making it safer for everyone. I think I covered this, except for the cost of construction is going to be 80% federal, 20% state with the STDEEP urban program. And I think this next one is the last slide. So this originally was going to be part of this Route 67 project going down River Street. There's a bridge, and we're gonna, right now there's no sidewalk that comes around, and kind of in the orange there, the sidewalk is gonna come around, and the bridge has to be widened to accommodate the sidewalk. And also the left turn lane storage there is gonna be extended so that there's, helps the traffic flow through the intersection. So this had to be broken out because there's some significant utilities that cross the bridge, and the coordination with the utility companies and how to handle those got to be very cumbersome and was taking a lot of time. So the DOT recommended that we break this out into a second project. So this is currently finishing up in design and will hopefully piggyback the Route 67 project in construction. So that kind of wraps it up, and I'll take any questions.
Karen, what was the engineering cost on the project?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Just curious. Staggering. I can guess what.
Yeah.
Who was the engineer?
SLR.
I think it started with my.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
Okay.
This takes us back to Rich.
Real cost.
Yeah, just very briefly, we want to inform everybody that the RAISE program has been released again for the 2024 cycle. RAISE is Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. It is a fairly large discretionary program, awards at a minimum of 3 million up to 25 million. Like all federal programs, it's typically an 80-20 split, although exceptions have been made in previous years for historically disadvantaged areas where they're allowed to move the project forward with 100% federal. This is round 4 now of a 5-year authorization. There's another $1.5 billion available this year. And so if any towns are interested in RAISE, please let us know. It's a relatively tight turnaround. End of February is the application deadline. And just so, again, for everybody's awareness, we are considering an application as the NVCOG for the first time for this program. We are hoping to design a significant section of the Naugatuck River Greenway, helping to start connect downtown areas and move the project forward at a faster pace if we can. So we'll be working with the Department of Transportation to identify match dollars for that, as well as with the towns that may be impacted by this project, to try and have an application done in the next few weeks at this point.
Okay.
Yes.
Item number 10, we have a speaker, from DEEP, is it?
Yes.
So we have Jillian Kara for,
Yep, let me, if I could just take a moment to introduce, today, we'll be hearing from Kevin Pisacich. He's Director of Office of Telecommunications and Broadband at Connecticut. Now, he's going to be giving an update on the state's broadband infrastructure improvement programs and other internet initiatives, and one of which is related to the federal government's Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program. And this is a $42 billion fund to expand broadband access across the country, and of which Connecticut was recently, this past summer, awarded $144 million. And so I'm turning it over to Mr. Pisacich.
Thanks so much. And I appreciate that introduction. And you kind of gave the pertinent, most relevant number. It's 144 million out of one program and 41 out of another. So I guess listening closely, there's $184 million for broadband infrastructure coming to the state of Connecticut. I understand we have a pretty short time frame here, so I'll go through these slides quickly and leave time for Q&A at the end. But I'll cover these grant programs, talk a little bit about the status of internet in Connecticut, what we're doing to map broadband availability and adoption in the state, and what we're doing going forward. Okay, so before we get started on that, I just need to talk about a couple of definitions. When you look at internet access, or if you've heard the term broadband, high-speed internet, it's one and the same. And what we're really looking at, and the federal programs are looking at, is what's called the last mile of broadband, or the connection between where you work, your house, the premise, and the middle mile, or the upstream broadband network. So looking at this picture here, all the way to the right is your home, your business, place of work, wherever it may be. That connection to your local provider is called that last mile piece. That's where the most problems with high-speed access are. As you move towards what's called middle mile networks in the backbone, there's less of capacity issues there. So the government and DEEP and the governor is trying to make sure that folks have enough high-speed last mile connections to support work and life in this century. So primarily that's a wireline connection. The programs are prioritizing a fiber connection as the fastest and most future-proof technology. There are exceptions to that, but again, that connection can of course be wireless if you're on your cell phone. But again, the focus of this program is on a wired connection that would support multiple devices, full-size computers, etc., from a premise. And when we talk about speeds, just to give a couple of terms here in the middle, having access to less than 25 megabits per second download and 3 megabits per second upload is considered unserved. If you've got that, but you're lacking access to 100 megabits download, that's from the internet to you, or 20 megabits per second upload, you're what's called underserved. So these locations will be important, and these definitions will matter as we're going forward here. So I think certainly we all can realize that speed is a requirement to function adequately in all that we're doing, including online meetings like this. So the state is mapping broadband access. That's where broadband connections are available. And we're doing it along those designations that you just saw: unserved, underserved. And then we're also mapping the state's goal, which is access to 1 gigabits per second by 100 megabits per second. That's the goal that Governor Lamont has established through the Broadband Bill, Public Act 21-159. So we're mapping that. That's the map here on the left. You can go to broadbandmaps.ct.gov and see the state's efforts to map broadband. we're also mapping adoption. So that's where broadband connections exist, but how are people doing it in terms of adopting those available connections? So you'll see that Connecticut has a much bigger problem with adoption, subscribing to available high-speed connections than we do having those connections available. So also to note that the FCC is mapping broadband connections at the access component as well. That's going to be very important as we go forward, as the FCC's map is going to dictate where funding from that BEAD program that was mentioned will go, and I'll get into that in a minute. So in terms of broadband grant programs, there are 4 that we want to call your attention to as they're at play right now for your communities. The first one is the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment, or BEAD program. DEEP is administering that one. The next is the Digital Equity Act program. So there's a Digital Equity Planning Grant, and there's going to be a Digital Equity Capacity Grant. So digital equity is ensuring that everyone has the same access to the broadband connections, the devices, the skills that they need to function online equally. So there's 2 different initiatives here. Both of these first 2 are under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, or otherwise known as EJA, Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act. So DEEP is administering the first. The Commission for Educational Technology is administering the second. So DEEP's, we'll talk about this, just went to public comment on ours. The Commission is going to public comment on theirs very soon, but these are going to be significant in your communities. The next is the Affordable Connectivity Program, or ACP. This is a direct subsidy program to consumers that are unable to afford broadband. So if there are residents in your communities that are qualifying for federal assistance programs or state assistance programs, they will also qualify for ACP, and that can mean a subsidy of $30 per month towards the cost of monthly internet service and a one-time device subsidy. And then the last one here is the Capital Projects Fund. This is the CPF side of the American Rescue Plan Act, as opposed to state and local fiscal recovery funds. We have a couple programs on the state level that are going to be funding broadband infrastructure out of CPF. So to look at the 2 that DEEP's administering, on the left, here it is, the ARPA CPF. This is from the General Assembly in the gray box. This is going to be earmarked for low income / multifamily homes, and the curb to home. That is that last mile, or sometimes the lateral deployment from the road to the building, to make sure that those connections are adequate. It's going to go in for underserved area infrastructure grants. Those, again, are lacking access to that 120 designation that we talked about. So we were hoping to kick this off in this quarter of this year. We don't have the final green light, and so we're waiting. It looks like we'll be right around the first of the year, or shortly thereafter in the first quarter, to launch that program. $41 million to sub-grant out, and this will complete out by the end of 2026. On the BEAD side, the $144 million that Connecticut was awarded here, this will go to, in order, build out of unserved locations. Those are lacking access to 25 down by 3 up, as designated on that FCC map I mentioned, then underserved locations, and then community anchors. I'll talk about that in a minute, but these are organizations, community organizations, that are working to help folks get online. So keep that in your mind. That's going to be important. There's a unique opportunity here for those organizations. So as I mentioned, $144 million in this program coming down. We're submitting the initial proposal for this program in just a couple of weeks, and we will open what's called a challenge process, which will get to the final definition of that FCC map in early 2024. And again, just to be very clear, locations that are designated on that FCC map, Connecticut locations, as either un or underserved, or community anchors that are working to facilitate adoption of broadband, those will be eligible for funding under this program. After that's all done, then we can fund other what's called non-deployment efforts. That would include digital equity efforts and so on. But the infrastructure build out will be tied to what's on that FCC map. So this challenge process, which we'll communicate with you about early next year, will become very important. So timelines here, I won't go through this for the sake of time, but in the blue is the BEAD program. We've already met several of these milestones here. We're submitting our initial proposal. Again, the NTA, who's administering this program on the federal level, will approve that early in the year. We will run our challenge process after that to finally close that FCC map, which dictates where funding will go on a location basis. We'll submit a final proposal, and then we'll start a grant award program sometime in 2025. The ARPA in green you can see here, we are hoping to launch now, probably first quarter if we get the final green light, and looking to make awards soon there in 2024, and those will need to be built out by the end of 2026. So going back to the community organizations under the BEAD program. So if you look here in the gray box on the left at the top, according to the definition by the BEAD program, CAIs or community anchor institutions are, here it is, nonprofit or governmental community support organizations that, underlined, facilitate greater use of broadband by vulnerable populations. So let's unpack that a bit because it's a very, very broad definition. It's intentionally so. Here are some examples: schools, libraries, etc., going down the road. But down in blue here, the last bullet point, other community support organizations, boys and girls clubs, senior centers, other types of community organizations that help people get online, whether through device training or broadband access, learning how to apply for jobs online, whatever it may be. This is intentionally very broad. Those organizations could be eligible for, moving to the top right, a 1 gigabit symmetrical connection funded under this program. That would be the capital costs to deploy that program, that service. So these connections, you might realize that this is more of an enterprise level connection, not a retail rack rate type of service or consumer service, getting 1 gigabit symmetric. So again, that could be funded if those organizations are doing this work. DEEP will be publishing a list of those organizations as we've been able to discover them, and that will be open to adjudication during that challenge process. So if there are organizations in your community that are not on this list and you're aware of them, that will be the window during that challenge process to make sure that they're represented, because again, they could be eligible for funding for these connections under this program. Then in terms of what's the vulnerable populations that are mentioned here, that's a pretty broad list in the notice of funding opportunity. Here are some of the examples here. It is very broad. Looking at this and consulting with the Department of Social Services, a full, I think it's 25% plus of Connecticut's population would fit under the vulnerable population category as described in the funding opportunity. So looking at maps real quick, just to show you what we are seeing, and this is on the state broadband maps that will also have some relevance in terms of how we look at the FCC maps, which are ultimately authoritative. But we're seeing, looking at Waterbury in particular here, Waterbury generally, and this is on the census block level, this is on the town level. As far as the state can see, Waterbury is very well served. According to the state's data submitted by service providers, only 0.1% of locations have access or don't have access to that 25 down, 3 up connection. So if you think this is not accurate, again, that's when the challenge process is going to be important to make sure that the FCC is getting this right. When you go to broadbandmaps.ct.gov, you can go to an area, you can go to a city or town, you can then zoom into the census block level as we've done here on the right. So in this particular example, looking at this particular block in Waterbury, we're seeing a little bit different story here, that there's a larger number of locations in this particular block that are lacking access to that served connection of at least 25 down, 3 up. So I'd say, high level message here, go to this map, broadbandmaps.ct.gov, take a look at your community, see how they're reflected. If you're getting complaints or comments from members of your communities that broadband's not available, encourage them to go to this map and the FCC's map to make sure what's depicted here is accurate. On the adoption side, again, you'll see here a much different story. So looking at this in Waterbury, 78% of households with a broadband connection have adopted it. It's another way to look at this figure. So why is there a 23% gap or 22% gap in broadband adoption versus availability? So this is something that the Commission for Educational Technology and Administering the Digital Equity Plan, as well as DEEP administering our program, will try and mitigate through the programs and through the funds to try and drive this adoption gap closer to 0. So same thing, you can drill down here further onto the census tract level in terms of adoption data versus the block level on access. But the information is here if you want to get into a real granular look about where broadband adoption is in your communities. So a few things that are going on in terms of keeping connected as we launch these programs. So first, I would say, getting back to community organizations, the importance there, you can scan this QR code or we'll send this presentation out. That's a survey trying to uncover and make sure the state is mapping all these community organizations. So that's opportunity number one. And then moving over to the right here, I'm sorry, the left, we hold a series of quarterly roundtables, and one of these is for broadband service providers. Those are likely to be sub-grantees to this program and build out the broadband infrastructure. The second is for state and local leaders of the likes that are on this call. And then the last is for community organizations, those that would likely connect to the populations more directly they're trying to serve. So this is a chance for us to, these three different roundtables with these three different audiences are a chance for us to give you pertinent information to each group and hear feedback accordingly. So these are on DEEP's, if you Google DEEP Broadband, you'll get to our website where we reference these roundtables and other program information. And then going to the far right here, we just closed public comment on our initial proposal for this program Tuesday. We'll be submitting that to the NTIA. And once that's approved, we'll start our challenge process early next year. So the last thing I'll mention, and let's go to the next slide. I don't know if we have our newsletter. Okay, you can also send us an email here. We do have a newsletter that we're now sending out as well. We're happy to include you on that. That's direct email communication, periodic communication, I'll say, to save your inboxes of just pertinent developments, milestones, and announcements. So please send us an email if you'd like to be added to that list. And with that, I'll see if anyone has any questions.
I have a question. We've been working with Frontier for the last 2 years, and our community is pretty much covered with broadband all over. In fact, all of our public facilities, all of our time, we're at 4 o'clock this afternoon. I'll sign off on the last one. We're all on radio communication. We're all on fiber optic in Middlebury. This is available to many of the other towns over here, so I'm not quite sure where this program flies in. And this is curb to facility service. We signed an agreement and.
So you don't have to worry about anything then.
Well, I don't know. It seems like this program is, the private sector got ahead of them on this whole thing and really jumped into it. And Frontier has been, I mean, let's not get into Frontier, but it's a whole new operation and this fiber optic is working absolutely fabulous for us. So, well, how does this play in with the private sector?
Great question.
Yeah.
Sure, isn't it starting like for the libraries and stuff?
Yeah, but we're already on that.
No.
And so are you. Probably.
Many of us are.
No, I think there's some confusion between CEN, which is a different, that's the state's network, for public facilities. This is about closing the gap between users, between availability and I'm sorry, it's the two terms you use for access and.
But to Eddie's
Access and
point,
adoption.
Frontier is doing it optimally.
No, they're not proposing to lay broadband. They're not proposing, none of this was proposing to lay new
No.
infrastructure.
It's to connect those people that would be left outside of their loop, I take it. According to Frontier, there's nobody else.
Well, let him respond.
Yeah.
Let the guy from Deep respond. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess you've got to look at this, and if Middlebury is if every residence, and so let's clarify that. Yeah, this is not meant to be. Let me drill into it a little bit. The BEAD program specifically and especially, this is for residential locations or small business that would subscribe to a mass market broadband service. So it's likely that Middlebury facilities and other town facilities are connected to CEN or some other type of broadband service provider. But the question is does every resident in Middlebury and other towns have access to broadband? And so that's the pertinent question.
I can't answer that question. I don't know what the answer is.
Right.
It's hard to know what the answer is. Go to the map.
The map.
Go to the
map.
I mean, I thought about doing the whole new world with Frontier. It's unbelievable.
Just if I can add on, according to the FCC, there were roughly 10,000 locations that still lacked access to broadband across the state. So wherever those locations are, may not be in your specific communities, but it might be beneficial to ensure that those that don't have access are represented, and with those locations would be eligible for funding.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Last but not least, and we'll send your presentation to all the CEOs here today, so they have a copy of it. I think that'll probably be helpful to everybody.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Drew. Last but certainly not least.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm fully aware that I'm the only thing standing between you and adjournment, so I promise to be super brief.
You're running out of an audience.
Yeah, I know. Everybody left. I feel like Mariano Rivera though. Okay, so, two things. Number one, the SED survey, which those of you who've been here before are already familiar with this. Please keep an eye out for the annual SED survey, which is the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy Survey. This is a tool that is not only useful for you locally, but also required through US EDA. It can help funnel funding your way for applicable projects, and the data gathered from the survey is important for everyone in the region to leverage demographic and other information for future grant applications. Last year, there was a request for paper copies from some of the communities to be sent. I know that is going to be happening as well. That way you can get an advanced look at what the questions. I think part of the problem was you answer question 2 and it ends up being what the answer would have been to question 5. So you'll be able to see it in paper form first. If you need assistance with that survey or have any questions, either Sheila O'Malley from Ansonia or myself can give you a hand with this. I think we noticed there were a couple discrepancies in some of the responses last year that didn't make a ton of sense for the individual communities. So just please try to take it seriously, make sure your staff is involved in filling it out as well. And then from an emergency management perspective, John Field is unfortunately out of the office on some extended leave, but his territory is being covered by other Demis staff in the interim. He asked me to pass along the following information, and I quote, "Your updated local emergency operations plan, your LEOP, is due by December 31st, 2023. The LEOP must include the required information in order to receive approval. Sending a draft to Region 5 prior to the actual due date will allow John and his staff to work with you to ensure compliance and approval. Once submitted and approved by Region 5, your municipality will be eligible for the Emergency Management Performance Grant, EMPG supplemental funding of $5,000. You have any questions about this, please let me know and I'll point you in the right direction." And that's it. A minute.
Okay, Ed, do you have any questions?
I just want to thank you, by the way, you passed out some literature that got me very close to my heart about how we get rid of our firefighting foam. And that we have 400 gallons on our apparatus. And fortunately, thanks to you, we got in right on the top of the list. Our vehicles are all cleaned out, all done and finished.
This little berry is hot. Wow.
They got rid of about $10 million worth of liability.
I think I'm gonna consider moving there. Not a care in the world.
Drew, I just have one question. Did the survey go out yesterday or did we got that internally?
I have not seen it. The CEO should be getting it directly.
I got it from River yesterday. It
Okay.
came to me, so.
It
might have already arrived.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Drew. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. There you go. So moved.
We're first on the list.
Seconded by St. John's.
Yeah.
Aye, all in favor. Both hands, not just one. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever it is. Happy holidays. Smile, okay. How do you get together?
I feel like we need rap music, like not rap music as in.
No, like
rap.